Conversation around the political activities. This time we'll be looking at election petition, replacing the people's vote, the people's mandate versus the judiciary decision, the judiciary deciding who leads us. We've been joined right about now by Sir Leonard Anyogo, who is a notary public, DG, Good Governance Advocacy International. He joins us right about now via Zoom. So good to have you on the show, Sir Leonard.
Thank you. Good morning for having me.
Good morning.
Let me also use this opportunity to say condolences to the nation. Officially, we are mourning the death of our late President Muhammadu Buhari.
All right, thank you very much. I would like you to ride on the last conversation that we just had with the last guest. Let's get your perspective around the electoral reforms in 60 seconds, if you can, as quickly as you can.
Well, we had a lot of expectations based on the Electoral Act 2022, but incidentally, regrettably, the reverse was the case because we had no election cases that we thought the Electoral Act 2022 was coming to take care of. So that is how unfortunate it was, and that's why we keep saying that law must be an emerging item that from time to time has to deal with situations as it arises. So I think I put my voice very strongly that we must continue to have electoral reforms, and the will to implement this reform is very cardinal.
Into the issue of the day, honestly, you're looking at what it takes for electorate to go out filing and maybe under the sun, under the rain to cast the ballot, and then afterwards some things go wrong and you have to resort to the judiciary to get who wins the election. As a Nigerian, let's start from there. What's been your experience?
Well, it's quite unfortunate because I do not, as a person and as a legal practitioner, believe that we should have court sanctions outcome of elections. Elections should be about what the people decide. But a situation where we go to court and the person that has come second, third, fourth, or even fifth will be declared by the court. It's a call for concern. Basically, it's not the problem of the judiciary, but it's the whole system, the electoral system. Of course, the judiciary is part of it. That you are not, you didn't emerge through a popular vote, but by court sanction outcome. It calls for a very deeper introspection on how our elections are conducted and also how the outcome could be sustained.
You know, I had to ask for your perspective around electoral reforms, primarily because there is an understanding that in itself is the basis on which there could be petitions or no petitions. If the electionary process is gotten right, that in itself will drag almost to the barest minimum any further election petition. So that for me is the key conversation this morning.
Absolutely. Fortunately or unfortunately, the Electoral Act, the Constitution, and other regulations, these are the extant laws governing elections in Nigeria, and these laws make provision for aggrieved parties or aggrieved candidates to go to approach the election tribunal via a petition to challenge the outcome of elections. And that's why people go to election tribunal to challenge the elections, and then of course if there are loopholes, technicalities and all that, sometimes they can be declared winner even when they were not popularly elected by the electorate. So that is the challenge, because now we are a country of law, so we are supposed to follow the laws. Now, but most of these elections are conducted in a total aberration of what the law says, and that is the in thing that we need to actually look at. Where elections are conducted not based on the rules that has been set out or the laws have been enunciated, then people, aggrieved candidates, will always approach the court, and then of course the court will seem to have the final say. And that's why some will have the opinion that, look, the court shouldn't be the one that should have the final say. It should be about the people. But the Nigerian laws make provision for our judiciary to inquire into how elections are conducted, either at the primaries or the general elections. So there have always been this argument that we are always having this outcome of elections based on what the court says and not what the people say, which I agree with you totally. And I want to believe very strongly that that shouldn't be the case. And there have always a further argument that the court, the way it is considered, even the Supreme Court, should have some kind of review by the Parliament. These are all advocacy that, look, the Supreme Court shouldn't be the final arbiter. After the Supreme Court decision, they should go to the National Assembly, like the House of Lords, for instance, like it's done in the UK. So sometimes look at the decision of the Supreme Court, because we have seen some decisions, with the greatest respect, that ordinarily does not sit well with Nigerians at all. We have seen the case of the Imo case, the Zamfara case, where you declare the no vote invalid, wasted vote and all that. But I think that we need to fundamentally look at all the system, the electoral system, the judicial system, as regards elections in Nigeria.
You know, it's very interesting because you are advocating now that even the Supreme Court should be set aside, some verdicts from the Supreme Court should be set aside and taken to the National Assembly even after the verdict had been given, so to speak. A lot of Nigerians will be asking, won't that also create more chaos than we have? That's the part A of the question. The part B will be to an average Nigerian that, look, if elections are held and Nigerians, most of them, if those who play politics, know that they have the right to go ahead and challenge the outcome of the elections in court, are there ways and manners that you think the electoral laws as they stand today can work for them so that sometimes they don't even have to go to court? Do you have maybe a recipe towards achieving that?
Probably, it would be fair to say it's my advocacy that National Assembly should look into or review judgment of the Supreme Court, because as a legal practitioner, that would be far-reaching, because that's the law as it is. But I've stated clearly that in some quarters that has been the muted idea that we should have some kind of judicial review. Even at the Supreme Court, you have split decisions. Sometimes a 7-man justices, you have 3 to 4. It shows that it's not even most times not a unanimous decision, but it's just a simple majority that will carry the day. And that simple majority may not go in tandem with the expectation of the society. So we are looking at ways that, look, is it the Supreme Court that must actually be the final arbiter in election matter? Now, of course, if you look at the US judicial system, there are some laymen that advise a kind of advisory role to the final verdict. So we are looking at ways like helping the justices, especially at the Supreme Court, to arrive at a very just cause where people's vote will not be seen to be wasted most times because of technicality. And that brings me to one point again about our election, the criminal aspect of violating our election laws. That's why there have been some advocacy too that the criminal aspect, when you violate electoral laws, you should be punished. There should be punishment for it, so that to act as a deterrence. But right now, there's none at all. I say for the fact that a professor was recently jailed by the Court of Appeal in Calabar recently. So there's no punishment for election violations, rules violation and all that. So people do that and they think that you should go to court. That shouldn't be the case. So these are all the gamut of things that we have to put to the table and see that our electoral system, the votes of the people matters at the end of the day. Otherwise, if we leave it to just court, there's no democracy in the world that the court will always come to bail the situation. None. You win election, you know that you actually won elections. But then, we are a country of who violate the laws, who violate rules of engagement, and there's no punishment. That's why I said, if there are punishment for these violations, it will curtail to a large extent how we violate laws in this country, especially when it comes to elections and elections outcome.
Leave it here, but it's important that we state here that there is indeed a need for a judicial reform. There is indeed a need to strengthen judiciary, because we cannot do without the input of the judiciary, even in some electoral matters. But importantly is that people must trust, people must have confidence in the judiciary in what they do. Thank you so very much for your time with us on the show, Leonard Anyaogu. Always a pleasure having you come talk to us on the show. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.